We should never take impeachment off the table. We should never take where we see law breaking. We should never take accountability off the table.
This nonsense from like AOC that he should be impeached is just absurd. Absurd. There's no... Okay, get back to me when you've read the Constitution or get a law degree, because you sound like an absolute...
Get ready, because everything you thought you knew just got flipped upside down. Megyn Kelly didn't just respond. She unleashed a verbal storm so explosive it could have been ripped straight from a Netflix thriller. AOC, the self-proclaimed queen of the spotlight, walked into this one completely unprepared, like showing up to a flamethrower fight armed with a water balloon. And the best part? No one saw it coming. After this, trust me, you'll never see AOC the same way again.
Absolutely no ground to impeach the president. He 100% was within his constitutional authority and his congressionally authorized authority to do what he did on Saturday. Okay, but as for whether it's a good idea, that's a debate we should be having. And look, you know, if we could get congressional approval of the specific action, fine, I'm okay with that too. If you want to bring it to Congress, go ahead and see how that goes. I don't think it's necessary, but...
Before we dive deeper, make sure to tap that subscribe button. It helps way more than you think. Now let's talk about what actually went down. Megyn Kelly didn't just turn the tables on AOC, she spun them so fast the room started to shake. What followed wasn't some polite discussion, it was a heavyweight brawl where one fighter clearly forgot their gloves. Megyn didn't simply poke a few holes in AOC's polished image. She tore right through it like a toddler attacking wallpaper with a pair of scissors.
Reaction on what's going on with Elon Musk and President Trump on Twitter right now?
Oh man, the girls are fighting, aren't they? I think this breakup we've been seeing a long time coming, but we'll see what the impacts are of it legislatively.
Okay. You're so cool referring to them as the girls. She's above it all, Ben. That's what she's trying to telegraph. You see, she's the adult in the room, the one out there who does a preacher accent, and she leans into her fake Latina accent. And like, she's the adult.
AOC, who usually thrives as the fiery Instagram icon sipping wine while lecturing America, suddenly found herself under Megyn's scorching spotlight. And it wasn't pretty. She looked like someone who just realized the Wi-Fi password had been changed mid-livestream. The thing about AOC is, her entire game runs on vibes. Her politics? Think TikTok dances paired with dramatic hand gestures and catchy slogans. People don't tune in for policy, they tune in for the 30-second performance that feels like a TED Talk crashed into a Broadway audition. But Megyn? Oh, Megyn plays a different sport entirely. She doesn't deal in vibes, she deals in precision strikes. The kind of strikes that leave even the most confident politicians questioning if their college thesis was ever worth printing. And that's exactly what happened here.
True radical left, who's gone beyond all the identity issues. I mean, just don't get me wrong. The person I'm going to show you is 100% wrapped in all of them, but like genuinely believes the Hitler fascist stuff, like is distraught because they really think Hitler just got reelected. Most of them were just pretending, but then there are the ones who genuinely believe it, like AOC.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies.
AOC strutted in expecting to dazzle with grand speeches, fiery tones, and maybe another one of her over-the-top metaphors, something like climate change being an overdue credit card bill. But Megyn wasn't falling for the theatrics. She dissected AOC's act one dramatic gesture at a time until the Congresswoman looked less like a political powerhouse and more like a student fumbling through a book report on a book she clearly never read.
He has been out there on this, I don't know if it's campaign trail, I don't know what we're calling it, but this like fight the oligarchy tour with Bernie Sanders, from which, you know, venue to venue, she travels first class, sipping her champagne, you know, in the first class cabin as the losers and plebs walk by to coach. They're the ones she's really fighting for. And she's decided to ramp up her anti-Trump rhetoric in a way she's done before, but that could be deeply problematic for her if Trump actually decides to pay some attention.
The brilliance of Megyn's approach was nothing short of surgical. She didn't come swinging with cheap insults or overblown drama. Oh no, she came armed with receipts, razor-sharp analysis, and precision points that sliced right through AOC's arguments like butter. One by one, those flashy sound bites collapsed faster than a silk dress in a washing machine. The crowd wasn't just watching, they were stunned. It's one thing to disagree with AOC's politics, but it's another to watch Megyn dismantle her entire persona so smoothly it looked effortless, like assembling IKEA furniture without the manual and still getting it right.
Today that AOC may be getting ready to run for president, that her team is looking, and I know you've said she could potentially do it, but her team is looking at maybe Senate. Chuck Schumer is, I think, going to be 78 when he runs for re-election. That's really old, and the Democrats seem to get that now. Or she might just go for president. And at the same time, this happened today. The Republicans in the House introduced a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk. It condemns the murder, and
here's where it gets downright scandalous. AOC has always been the untouchable darling of her circle, the queen of late-night comedy skits, the hero of progressive Twitter, and the self-crowned slayer of capitalism, all while rocking $300 sneakers. Her image has been so perfectly polished it makes Apple product launches look like backyard garage sales. But Megyn didn't just expose the cracks, she magnified them in crystal clear 4K with surround sound. It wasn't just a takedown, it was a cinematic demolition. Suddenly, AOC's whole "I'm the future" persona looked less like destiny and more like a failed Broadway audition that somehow landed on C-SPAN. This wasn't about policy anymore, it was about performance. And Megyn dared to go where no one else had gone before. Instead of arguing the bullet points, she stripped away the showmanship, revealing the theater behind it all. The hand gestures, the dramatic pauses, the carefully staged emotion. It was like pulling back the curtain on The Wizard of Oz, only to find some guy with a megaphone and a fog machine. And once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. The reactions were priceless. Half the audience sat frozen, jaws hanging in disbelief, while the other half burst into uncontrollable laughter.
Of course he's lying and abusing and manipulating the stock market too. When he talks about rapists and criminals, he should look in the mirror.
Clearly saying that Donald Trump is a racist. Rapist. She also thinks he's a racist. He's all the ists. But here, she's in deep trouble because he was not found liable for rape. And George Stephanopoulos just had to pay ABC some $15 million to President Trump to settle a defamation lawsuit.
Meanwhile, somewhere in Brooklyn, a barista tried to convince their coworker that AOC was still a genius, even though she had just been steamrolled live on air. But none of that mattered anymore. The damage was already done. Megyn didn't just expose AOC. She revealed that the Congresswoman's polished image was more costume than conviction. And the irony? AOC looked like she was trying to return the outfit for store credit. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. AOC had been soaring high, basking in the glow of influencer-style politics, where retweets count as reforms, and clapping back on social media passes for governing. But Megyn tore right through that illusion, showing the world the truth behind the brand.
There's AOC, who said the following.
And beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution.
Then she voted no. She refused to join in the resolution. Consequences to her politically for doing that?
I would love to have her run for president of the Democratic side. It's a contrast, right? What you see is what you get. If that's what you think can lead this country, is that where your values are? Is that what you think will continue to promote American freedom and liberty?
Clapping back only works when there's real substance behind it. Otherwise, it's just noise, empty flair, political jazz hands waving in the air without meaning. And here's the ultimate twist. AOC probably thought she could spin this like every other controversy. Play the victim, rally her base, toss out a few hashtags, and walk away stronger. But not this time. Politicians get exposed for bad policies all the time, but getting exposed for acting? That's a whole new level of humiliation. Megyn didn't just challenge her ideas, she turned AOC's greatest weapon, her charisma, into her biggest liability. Suddenly, the performance that once made her a star now made her look desperate, over-rehearsed, and painfully try-hard. And in politics, there's nothing deadlier than looking like the one trying too hard to stay relevant. By the end, Megyn didn't just win an argument, she rewired how people see AOC forever. Once you realize that the so-called voice of the people has really just been performing a Broadway audition every time she grabs a mic. It's impossible to unsee it. It's like finding out your favorite action hero was just a stunt double all along. And the craziest part? This wasn't even Megyn at her sharpest. This was Megyn on a casual Tuesday, sipping coffee, smiling, and casually dismantling a politician like it was just another item on her to-do list.
The reason this is relevant is because a congresswoman who you may know as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been telling us for years that she is from the Bronx. And recently she had a fight with President Trump over tweet, text, truth, whatever. And she played tough and said, "Oh, don't you mess with me. I'm a Bronx girl. And we eat Queens boys for breakfast." Because that's where Trump was raised, in the Queens. And respectfully, AOC. Well, that's real cute, except she only lived in the Bronx until she was age 5.
Imagine what happens when she actually decides to focus her full attention on AOC. That won't just be exposure. It'll be political demolition with style and a smile. Because when Megyn sets her sights on you, the internet never forgets. The memes are already flooding in. Late night hosts are making nervous jokes. And somewhere, a team of interns is scrambling to delete clips from trending feeds. But spoiler alert, it's too late. The cat's out of the bag and the illusion has collapsed.
Rest of her childhood, 1 through 12th grade, in Yorktown Heights, which is Westchester. And by any measure, it is richer, nicer, and more white collar than the Bronx, with all due respect to my friends in the Bronx. She's pretending to be a Bronx girl because she wants this to be part of her origin story, the same way as she wants now to be called Alexandria Ocasio.
At this point, AOC's best option might be to lean all the way into the theater of it. Maybe she should start doing full-on musical numbers in Congress, jazz hands and all. At least then people might laugh with her instead of at her. Because after what Megyn just pulled off, the performance has been shattered into 1,000 glittering pieces, and the mask can never be put back on again. And now, for the first time, people are asking themselves the question no one dared to ask before. Wait, was this always just a show? The most shocking part is how fast the tide turned once Megyn put AOC under her microscope. Before this, AOC was untouchable, an internet superhero who could do no wrong. Fans worshipped her like she was rewriting history with every live stream, but now, that flawless image has cracked and it'll never be whole again. Suddenly, those meandering policy explanations sound like riddles from a broken fortune cookie. And those big metaphors about billionaires devouring planets, they land with the force of a flat soda can. But Megyn wasn't about to give her a polite round of applause. She popped that balloon, and the air whooshed out in one long, painfully awkward squeak.
Everyone knew her as Sandy Cortez when she was growing up, and her lies are coming to the fore. So, among other things, Benny Johnson, who's hilarious, and he's a great Twitter follow and has a great show, went to Yorktown Heights just to take a look and to talk to some folks there about AOC and what Yorktown is like and so on. And now some of her schoolmates, separate and apart from Benny, are weighing in on her claim.
That's the cruel truth of performance politics. It only works as long as the audience still believes the illusion. And Megyn, she had no hesitation tearing away the wires and revealing the trick behind the magic. Picture it, AOC launching into one of her signature speeches. Eyes wide, voice trembling with passion, hands cutting through the air like she's conducting an invisible orchestra. Normally, that routine kills. It's political theater at its best. But after Megyn's exposure, those same gestures suddenly looked stiff, mechanical, almost rehearsed to death. It was like watching a magician repeat the same trick once you already know where the aces are hidden. The first time, it's dazzling, but by the 10th, it's painfully predictable. You could almost feel AOC realizing it in real time, the sparkle fading from her eyes as she sensed the illusion. Slipping away, her entire brand thrives on control. Control of the narrative, the tone, the atmosphere, the emotion. But Megyn shattered that control right before everyone's eyes. Once Megyn stripped away that carefully built control, the entire performance started to crumble. AOC no longer looked like a fearless revolutionary leader. She looked like an exhausted drama student forgetting her lines mid-performance.
Fourth place, not necessarily fourth place. This is just, I'm going to start with as the fourth possibility, but I've got 4 total and you'll decide what order they go in. I'm going to kick it off with AOC. Okay. Her real name is Sandy Ocasio. This is what she went by her entire life, Sandy Ocasio. And only when she decided to run for office did she decide to suddenly become Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and lean into her Puerto Rican history, where her mother was born in Puerto Rico, but her father was born in New York City. And she decided to tell us sob stories about how she's from a poor family and she was living, paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, she was raised in a Tony part of Westchester called Yorktown Heights.
Reaction on what's going on with Elon Musk and President Trump on Twitter right now.
Oh man, the girls are fighting, aren't they? I think this breakup we've been seeing a long time coming, but we'll see what the impacts are of it legislatively.
Megyn didn't need to shout or grandstand. She calmly dissected AOC's entire playbook, one exaggerated move at a time, and somehow that made it even more devastating. Because here's the thing, AOC thrives when she has a villain to fight. She feeds off opposition. She loves to turn her critics into cartoonish bad guys. It fuels her brand. But what happens when her opponent refuses to play the villain? When Megyn simply stands there smiling, quietly pointing out that the emperor is doing jazz hands in an empty room? Suddenly there's no one to battle, just silence, and the deafening sound of credibility deflating like a popped balloon. Predictably, AOC's fans came rushing to her rescue. Twitter erupted into chaos. Threads longer than medical textbooks appeared overnight, all desperately trying to spin the situation. She wasn't really exposed. They insisted Megyn was just being mean. This doesn't matter in the big picture. They cried. But the irony? The harder they defended her, the worse it looked. Because when you have to write a 42-part explanation about why someone didn't get embarrassed, you're basically confirming that they did. And through it all, Megyn just sat back, calm and composed, probably sipping her coffee like a queen surveying the battlefield she'd already conquered. That's the power of a perfect takedown. It echoes without needing another word. The blow lands once, and the shockwaves do the rest. Every clip gets replayed, every meme gets shared, every conversation drags AOC's performance right back into the spotlight. And each replay only makes her look more artificial. It's almost poetic, like watching a gymnast nail a flawless triple flip, only to faceplant while waving to the crowd. Nobody remembers the flips. They remember the fall. The ripple effect across the media was nothing short of hilarious. Outlets that normally rushed to AOC's defense suddenly started whispering, well, maybe she does rely a little too much on theatrics. Oh, now they notice. Years of overacting, exaggerated hand gestures, and Instagram sermons. And it takes Megyn shining a neon spotlight on it for them to finally admit the obvious. The timing was pure comedy gold. It was like watching a room full of people pretending to love a bad movie, until one brave soul finally says, wait, this is terrible. And suddenly, everyone else agrees. Then came the memes, the real destruction, because the internet doesn't deal in nuance, it deals in punchlines. And Megyn handed them enough material to last for years. Clips of AOC's dramatic hand waves were instantly set to circus music. Her emotional pauses looped into endless reels of awkward silence. Her impassioned expressions turned into still frames with captions like, Oscar-worthy performance, zero policy details. Once the internet locks onto something like that, your credibility doesn't just take a hit, it gets roasted, packaged, and archived forever. Now, every exaggerated hand wave looks faker than ever. Every pause feels scripted. Every passionate plea sounds like a desperate audition monologue. And here we are, AOC's image shattered wide open, her supporters frantically trying to patch it back together, and the media nervously admitting what they always knew but never dared to say. And Megyn, she's just standing there, the calm storm in the center of chaos, the one who reminded everyone that the emperor wasn't just wearing no clothes. He was doing jazz hands all along. The best part? This wasn't even a battle. It was an unveiling. There were no dramatic claps, no gasps, no final round, because the truth doesn't need applause. It just needs to be seen. And now, no one believes the act anymore. They see the wires, they see the props, and they see the performer desperately trying to keep the show alive while the audience quietly walks out.